So look, we'll move on to item 18, and I've just got a possible amendment by inclusion I'm looking at, but I'm just replying back to Councillor Sayers because I've just received it now. But while we're doing that, I'm going to ask, well, look, at this stage, Councillor Sayers, I'm sending back a response to your email. So I don't know whether you would like my response, which means you may not want to support the recommendations that are currently on the paper. So I don't know whether you wish to move it, because I want to end up letting the committee know what you've sent me.
I'm happy to move it out to get it onto the table if you're happy to second it.
Okay, look, I will second it, and then I'm going to get send the email that you've sent me to Mace and Scott and Stephen and the team to have a look at it. I will put in there why, but then I will get the staff, now that it's on the table, I'll get our staff to go through a PowerPoint if they have any, and also comment on the recommendations. Kilda. Thank you, Scott, Mace.
And thank you, Alf. I just want to add the reason for the short time frame, Alf, why you've only just got us. I've only just seen the chair's recommendations, so hence my apologies for it being so short time, but I only saw them a few minutes ago. There they are, there in red. Thank you.
Yeah, okay then. Well, look, I'm going to end up, I'll get back to you through the email, Councillor Sayers, so then at least we know we're on the same page. Thanks. So Scott, Mace, I'll leave it to you if Mace is there, Scott.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Hello, everybody, and thanks for allowing us to come and present this paper again. I'll take the report as being read. Just wanted to, just a couple of highlights around the recommendations, that's all. Is, you know, the work that we've previously done with the community and working through this long process.
Scott, sorry, Scott. Look, I'm so sorry to stop you, but there's an echo. I don't know whether the echo is in at your end. Yeah, it's just in the background. So, Scott, if you wanted to continue, hopefully the echo is gone. So before, look, again, sorry, I put the camera on. Look, I just wanted to sort of, because of the email I received, I actually, Scott, before you start, and this little break has given me the opportunity to acknowledge the chair. We go back to what we said at the beginning of the report, and that is I'm going to get Chair Phelan to end up speaking as the chair at the local board input that I indicated this morning that he will speak at before the item, and then Scott, while you're working out the issues you have there, I'll get Phelan to come on. So Chair Phelan, I will move. Councillor Sayers will move. I will second that Chair Phelan speak now before the item. So Phelan, all yours.
Thank you very much, Chair, and thanks for the opportunity to speak to the item, and also just want to thank you for your support through the process and discussions. Also just want to thank Regional Park staff for fronting a challenging series of public meetings and working through a complex set of issues. And I think the recommendations, we've got to a position where we've got a range of practical measures which will help us improve the way vehicles use Mirawai Beach. Just the primary concerns we heard from the community can be boiled down into two main areas. So there's the damage to the environment resulting
Kia ora,
from
can anyone hear me?
vehicles illegally accessing the sensitive dune area, which is, as you all know, home to a number of endangered plants and animals. And the other main issue is public safety. That's unfortunately due to the behaviour of a minority of users, but of course this has become worse as the numbers of vehicles have increased over the last few years, and you've all seen the statistics. It's a significant increase. The Rodney Local Board unanimously supported the direction staff have taken with this issue. We support working with the community steering group, which represents community associations, environmental groups, sports groups and four-wheel drive groups. It is an essential part of improving management of vehicles on the beach. Some really good ideas came out of that process, and these are reflected in the recommendations. We also support the suggestion from the steering group and staff for a paid permit system and an implementation of control measures to ensure this becomes a management tool to improve behaviour. I support Councillor Sayers' suggestions around that the revenue from any permit system is ring-fenced for the management of the beach, including control measures such as permit system, staff resources, other initiatives such as dune restoration and improved communications. This would help ensure this is a self-funding management program for Council. Finally, we support the move to implement a system that will be able to remove those vehicle users that continue to break permit rules, damage the environment, damage public and private property, and endanger other users, while allowing the continued access to responsible beach users who are there to enjoy such activities as fishing, surfing, walking, and other things. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, look, thank you, Phelan. I'm going to open it up for questions to you from our committee, and then we'll move to the item. So I've got a question from Councillor Sayers. You first.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Phelan, for your presentation, and you know the Rodney Local Board's efforts around this kind of delicate situation. But my question, Phelan, would be, there's a potential amendment to be put up to extend the, you may see it in the chat bar, just to extend the time period over the New Year period by another 7 days. Are you, without, you know, I know you haven't got an opportunity to go back to your membership, but did you want to make any comment about the wisdom in that, or any other comment?
I think the closure thing is something that's operationally decided by staff, and they work with the JAM group, so the joint I can never remember the name of the group, Joint Agency Mirawai Management, I think it is, and that's got, you know, there's the forestry owners, police, fire, a range of agencies involved in that, and I think probably that's the best avenue in terms of how long that closure should be, and bearing in mind that if we went to a total fire ban season, so just putting my firefighter's hat on, that might mean that you extend whatever time you've got a closure for over that New Year period into a total fire ban season, and that could go on for weeks depending on the weather conditions. But that's something that Fire and Emergency New Zealand determine, and then that would feed into the decision making from regional park staff around whether to extend that or just leave it for the period indicated or add another 7 days onto it. So yeah, sorry, I kind of hospital passed that a bit, but I feel that's a sort of operational decision that staff can work with JAM and Fire and Emergency.
I think that's a very helpful answer, Phelan. Just a supplementary to that around the fire, just with your local fire chief's hat on there. Is my understanding, have I got the correct understanding that there is a full ban right along the beach that's permanent anyway, or is it?
Yeah, that's correct. Well, I mean, under council bylaws, you're not allowed to light fires in beaches or public parks, so that covers that area on the beach. So yes, currently there's no fires allowed. The reason for you know, the logic behind having limits on vehicles accessing beaches over a period where there's a total fire ban is that some people can't resist the temptation to sit there and watch the sun go down and light a fire, and the risks around that are considerable. So yeah, you're not allowed to light fires on beaches anywhere in Auckland, is how it stands currently.
Okay, very good. Thank you for that, Phelan. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, thank you so much. Are there any other further questions for the chair? No. So look, Phelan, just again, I mentioned this. I mentioned this at the workshop. Thank you so much to you and especially to you plus Greg and the team, that when you ended up fronting at the consultation, and I know the abuse that the team plus yourself and others like Greg got. So look, thank you so much. So that's been moved and seconded. So I'm going to put that recommendation around the local board input. All those in favour?
Aye.
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 Against? Carried. Thank you, Phelan. Look, I'm just going to go back to Scott now, and he'll go through. And I've contacted Scott in regards to what you've sent, Councillor Sayers, and so look, we'll go through the presentation. I think his last words were, I'll take it as read, but then if there's any questions, if we could get the recommendation, including the chair's recommendations, that'll be great, Sandra. And oh, look, we've got some more questions now. Councillor Cooper, can you get your question, please?
Yes, the question is, Member Wilcox is looking to put an amendment up to extend the closure by 7 days to the 17th of January. Have you got an opinion about that, or how that anything affects implementation, or if that goes against anything you'd recommend? And I'm not against it, I'm just asking the question.
Yeah, so look, I was of the same opinion in regards to the comment from the chair, but I'm going to ask Scott to comment on that, so then at least we'll be better guided in regards to the recommendations.
Sorry, if I may, Mr. Chair, on behalf of Scott, Steve Bell speaking from Regional Parks West.
Yes, Steve.
Scott's having a few challenges, technical challenges at the moment with his connections. So in relation to, we have a very short presentation, which is only about 4 slides as a refreshment for the committee. In relation to your question specifically about an extension of time, last year the beach was closed from the 23rd of December through to about the 10th of January or the 11th of January. The anecdotal feedback and comments we got was the Christmas period was more a family period, and New Year's was probably more relevant for the behavioural closure and fire risk. This year we've proposed the 10 or 11 day period from 31 December to 10 January, but are open to recommendations beyond that.
Thank you.
Okay, so do you have any issue, Steve? Would you have any issues for that to be extended to the 17th of January?
From a regional parks perspective, no.
Okay then. So now I don't have Scott's come online yet. So look, from that, I take it even from the 17th. Councillor Sayers as the mover and I as the seconder, do you have any issues with from the 31st of December through to the 17th of January being added there as the chair's recommendations and the approval from both you and I?
Alpha, I'm happy to kind of put it up there. I do have a set of questions now that I'd like to ask in due course. I'll put my speaking term up there, and as a result of those, I'll make a decision But I think for the debate, I'm happy to have it there to be, considered by the committee. Is that
Okay.
possible?
Yep. No, look, that's no problems at all. I'm just waiting really for the 4 slides and who's going to put those up. I'm assuming it'll be Scott when he comes online. I also see that Mace, I think you're online as well. Maybe not.
If I may, Mr. Chair, Steve Bell again from Regional Parks. I have the slides, and I'm more than happy to run through that quick presentation now at your approval.
Yep. Yes, please. If we get that through, then I'll start going back. I see that Scott has come in and said he's back. But look, let's start the slide.
Yeah, we'll just give that a go in the hope that I don't have technical challenges. Can you see a slide, future management of vehicles driving on Mirawai Beach?
All done, Steve.
Cool. If I may, just as a quick refresh, as you will all know, there are 3 common public entry points onto Mirawai Beach. For Coast Road being through the regional park, Rimmer Road being by way of an easement through Woodhill Forest, and Wilson Road being by way of a legal road which is unformed off Wilson Road in South Head. In the 10-month period from 1 October 2020 to 31 July 2021, based on vehicle counters at those 3 access points, there were 57,833 vehicles driving onto and then off the beach. So that totals about 115,000 vehicle movements. The map to the right of this screen is it's very hard to see the detail because it's such a 45-kilometre long beach, but you'll see the 3 entry points being Coast Road, being actually Rimmers is not marked on here. There is another unformed legal road through Otakanini Taupu off South Head, Tarawera Road, and then Wilson Road through here. When vehicles get onto the beach, they can legally drive between the mean height low water mark and the mean high water mark from the Coast Road access point down here through to the southern boundary of the Department of Conservation by Defence Force land, commonly referred to as the bombing range. They cannot drive inland of the mean high tide mark. That's the coastal marginal strip, in an area from which vehicles are prohibited. So unfortunately, that is an area where most vehicles try to go. Staff recommendations in the controls, and these are as I said, the staff recommendations, so they may differ in a minor way from those in front of you, although they shouldn't. Is the summer closure discussion we've just had, targeted education, improved signage, and targeted enforcement. Reducing the speed limit on a small section of unsealed section of Coast Road through the regional park, restricting an area or the basin area to the south of Okiritoto stream to park vehicles only. It's an area where we do get some very poor driver behaviour, so we're just trying to isolate that. Continue with community engagement through the steering group, continue with the joint agency, which have been tremendously helpful in a combined joint effort to improve safety and behaviour on that beach, and then the other ones which form part of an amended recommendations to the governing body. Our next steps, subject following this meeting, is preparing for the coming summer period, and then implementing the management measures identified in conjunction with the community groups and user groups who have already put their hand up and said they're really, really keen to be part of improving that education, signage and messaging, and then to investigate paid permit and hard controls if required before updating the PACE committee in the coming summer. There ends the presentation, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Stephen, I'm going to, I think, Scott, you're online now. So look at, are there any other comments that you have? And then we can get into any partai, but then go back to firstly the question that Councillor Cooper ended up asking, and then I can deal with the email that I got from Councillor Sayers and any other partai through this. So Scott, over to you.
Yeah, through the chair. Look, thank you. Apologies for the malfunction before. Look, no, I haven't really got anything else. I think Stephen's covered it really well, but I just want a couple of thanks really. I just want to thank Stephen for all the efforts that he's done, because he's done an amazing job throughout this whole thing, working with the community and leading some of those conversations, and also Phelan from the local board. We've formed a bit of a team of three sort of thing, and it's been a bit of a pleasure going through this. So I'm hoping that the recommendations are supported and will enable us to get on operationally to make some changes to the beach, because I think that's really what we need to do. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you, Scott. Thank you, Stephen. Look, I now want to go through some of those recommendations you just mentioned, so then I can put it on the table for our committee. Then I will go back to the questions. I'm going to, Sandra, if you could remove my name from the second, only because I wish Councillor Cooper to second it and Councillor Sayers to move, and Councillor Cooper to second. That's the only reason. And as a result, the Chairs Committee, based on the what we've got, is that 17th of January has been added and changed instead of the previous 10th of January. That's based on comments from our staff. Also, if Sandra, if you could move down the screen so then everybody can have a look at it around the Chair's recommendations. Those have been added as a result from discussions with Phelan, our staff, and myself. And there's also, in addition, Councillor Sayers, that you sent me, that has been included into point 3, as you can see. So look, that's the explanation in regards to those in red. Fully support, and now I'm just going to open up to questions. So Councillor Cooper, yes, it's been added, so that's fine. Councillor Sayers, and then Councillor Cashmore.
I didn't need a question.
Thank you. Councillor Sayers, you got any questions?
Yeah, yes, I've got a few. Alf, thank you very much. Just there's a road that runs through on iwi land there, and if officers could just confirm, I think it's Rimmers Road, and with the proposed closure, I'm just wondering if the local iwi had been consulted on the seasonal closure over New Year. Our first question.
If I may, through the Chair, Steve Bell from Regional Parks. In answer to your question, the road that runs through iwi land is through the Otakanini Topu, is Tarawera Road. That is, I think, impassable in some areas at present. Rimmers Road runs through the Woodhill Forest off State Highway 16. I am aware that has some structural challenges as a result of the severe weather of last week. So iwi and Hancock's Forestry are looking at what needs to be done around that. But yes, iwi have been consulted in respect of the summer closure.
Thank you, Stephen. What was their position on it?
Supportive.
Thank you. Probably a supplementary to that, Stephen. It just wasn't in the reason why I've asked that question primarily is because in the report under our Maori engagement there, it didn't mention that. In fact, I think it said the opposite. So have things changed in the interim, Stephen? Just need to be clear on that.
The engagement with iwi, if I may, through Mr. Chair, the engagement with iwi was in relation to the long-term management of Mirawai Beach as it led up to this report. the conversation, sorry, they haven't at this point formed a formal position with regards to the future of vehicles on Mirawai Beach. The seasonal closure conversation through Christmas was a conversation with the Joint Agency Management Group, and the minutes from that were distributed to members of that group with those dates indicated in it for the summer closure. There was no detraction or objection to those dates.
And so, Stephen, they have representatives on that particular group, are they?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Second question is just in terms of the Independent Maori Statutory Board, also, because again, it wasn't mentioned in the report, Stephen, hence the question, in terms of what engagement we've had with them, specifically around the summer closure period.
I can answer that if you want, Steve. Yeah, through the chair, no, we haven't engaged the Independent Māori Statutory Board as part of this process, Councillor Sayers. I understand that if we take on the recommendations that have been added to the report, we will need to do that as part of the fees and charges process through the permitting system, and that will be a process we'll pick up at that time. But through this this part of the program, they haven't been engaged.
Okay, thank you, Scott. And again, just because we're looking at a longer period now in the recommendations for that seasonal closure, probably, you know, obviously the community steering group or other groups that you've been working with haven't been socialised with that, but anyway, in general, has the community steering group, which I understand has been quite helpful in terms of bringing out the community along with us, and in the recommendations we plan to continue engagement with them for specifically that purpose. What was their standpoint, or was there any consensus reached with that group as well around there being a seasonal closure at all?
Through the chair, yeah, I'm happy to start, and Steve can jump in. Look, we've been talking around seasonal closures since the start of this program's been rolling out, and it was one of the options that we originally put on the table when we went out and engaged with the community. Through the survey, we actually had some really good results that people were quite supportive. I think it was around 30% of people who actually supported with those seasonal closures. It wasn't specifically, from what I recall, around the working with the steering group, it wasn't specifically tabled in terms of dates, but there was general conversations around the need for seasonal closures. And from my understanding of some of those conversations and some of the feedback we've received from those members, there was quite a bit of support for limitations on access onto the beach. So it's probably something that we'll carry on with, and pick up those conversations with that steering group as we get through this process.
Okay.
Was there anything else? Did Stephen want to add anything to that? I've just got a couple more questions, Mr. Chair, but thank you, Scott. But I can move on to the next question. In recommendation, the new one up there, D3, we're talking about this, looking at this permit system, and Phelan touched on it as well. And thank you, Mr. Chair, for just including that last kind of part of the sentence there, so it can be self-funding, as Phelan pointed out. The money that we perhaps can generate from this permit system can go in to help implement those management measures that are mentioned in recommendation 2. So thank you for reconsidering that, Mr. Chair, along with the staff's assistance there. But in terms of the actual process to get that permit in place, Scott, my impression is that may well have to go through an annual plan process next year, so we can go and consult the all of Auckland on even price levels, and obviously all of Auckland will want an input on such a beach. But is there also potential, or is it too early to say if we can bring that forward at all, and it doesn't have to go through the annual plan process, or will it have to go through the annual process, or are we still finding out options?
Yeah, through the chair, yeah, my understanding is that ideally you would run through the annual plan process because you're addressing a number of wider issues. but I don't believe there is any restrictions on terms of going out separately. I'm not sure if Mark, my manager's listening in, he may know a little bit more about that process, but yeah, I understood that you could actually go out separately, or you'd include it in the annual plan process.
Okay, I can't hear.
I'm not sure if that answers your question.
Yeah, no, it does,
Councillor.
Scott. No, it does. I just wanted to see if your boss wanted to jump in if he was online, that was all. And last
Mr. Chairman, if I can just
okay.
Sorry, it's Mace Ward here. Can I, Mr. Chairman, are you happy for me to answer that?
Yeah, no, or yours, Mace, because I want to get through to the other questions as well, and then we can put the item. Thank you.
Sure. Thanks, Councillor Sayers, for the question. The answer is yes, you could go out, but we haven't considered what the cost for that would be, and it would be a significant cost in going out for one fee and charge compared to doing that through the annual plan process and running that consultative process. The other thing is, I understand that the consultation with the community was about a staged approach, with a fee-based system being down at that staged approach with some greater level of consultation. So the intent would be to do that through the annual plan process, if that's so that we had an efficient way of doing that. I hope that answers your question.
It does, Mace. Thank you very much, and I'm supportive of that approach. We just need to keep this conversation moving forward, ticking forward, and key to it is bringing along the community with us, and that steering group seems to work very well. Yeah. And just look, my final question is just around the cost. The paper didn't mention how much does it cost us each time we want to do the New Year's shutdown, seasonal closure. Have we got an estimate of what's that likely to cost us to fully implement and then remove?
If I may, through you, Mr. Chair, Steve Bell, Regional Parks West. My recollection says last year the costs of that seasonal closure were in the vicinity of $16,000. That was for Coast Road and also for Wilson Road. Given that we have a simpler way to close Coast Road now, it's likely to be, I'd estimate, half to 2/3 of that.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Stephen. Thank you, Mr. Chair. That concludes my questions. Thank you.
Yeah, kapai. So, Councillor Darby, I missed your partai earlier, so you're now up the front, and then Councillor Dalton, His Worship the Mayor, and Matua Glenn.
Kia ora, Chair, thank you. For Scott and Steve, just want some clarification. Who has jurisdiction over Coast Road? Is it, you're talking about the speed limit reduction on the part that runs through the park, but who has jurisdiction over that section of road?
Happy to get that, Scott. Through you, Mr. Chair, the Coast Road from the Maratara intersection past the fire station through to the beach is effectively a service road that sits within the regional park. So the rules on that road run through regional parks as opposed to Auckland Transport.
Okay, so you're really confident that AT doesn't have jurisdiction, so you don't need to go through the speed limits bylaw process, which we've missed out on. It's totally external to that. Just getting that confirmation.
Yes, we are, sir.
Okay, thank you. Second question, and my final question, Chair, is what feedback have we got from the equestrian community? There's a lot of horse riding on Mirawai Beach. Can we give a summary of the feedback we've had from the equestrian community, please?
Again, if I may, Scott, through you, Mr. Chair, I've been down to the four-wheel drive access point on Mirawai Beach informally and spoken with a number of riders, dog walkers and users of that area. The closure through last summer was very strongly supported and favoured by them. They enjoyed not having to compete with vehicles both legally there and the number who are there illegally. So we don't have a consolidated pool of feedback from the equestrian community. They shared the survey with their members through Waitemata Riding and other groups, but certainly the anecdotal feedback we have from horse riders and users of the beach was very strongly supportive of the closures.
Sorry, that probably does lead me to a supplementary, Chair. So there are equestrian facilities in the Mirawai area, and some of them do, part of their programs is they exercise on the beach. So those facilities, and I think maybe one or two offer commercial rides as well, which might include riding even in the regional park and on the beach itself. So we didn't actually go to those commercial organisations or the community organisations that are known to us to garner their feedback. It was just a bit of anecdotal stuff.
No, we did specifically speak with we have one concessionaire who operates a riding concession through Mirawai Regional Park. We did specifically speak with them. Some of them weren't that comfortable being identified as not supporting ongoing four-wheel drive access. As you can imagine, it can be a small community. But the casual user, we have a horse park in that area for casual users as well, to be able to tie up and tack up and go for a ride and then untack when they get back. The ones we've spoken to in that space were very supportive.
Okay, thank you very much.
Kapai, I go to Councillor Dalton.
Thanks, Alf. I don't need the answer today. I'm just curious about the ring fencing of the revenue generated from the permit, and is that something that we do? Do we ring fence permit revenue? I support the intent and that it will go back into the OPEX to implement. But if I could have an answer around that whole process of the revenue that's generated from permits and if they're ring fenced.
Through the chair, it's Scott here. I'm not sure if Mace is still on the line. He may be in better position to answer this. Mace, you there?
Yeah. Kia ora, Scott. Kia ora, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for the question, Councillor Dalton. No, typically permit fees aren't ring fenced. We budget for the operational expenditure to implement the controls of a permit and our other operational expenses, and then budget for the revenue from those from any fee-based system, so you can determine it in that way.
Okay.
That helps.
Yes, that helps. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. His Worship the Mayor.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Chair. Can I just first of all thank Phelan and our Rangers, Steve Bell and Scott Silva, for the work they've done. I know that dealing with some entitled members of the public was pretty unpleasant during the consultation, so a big, thank you for putting up with that. You shouldn't really have to. And a thank you to Steve Bell for spending 6 hours with me on Saturday, taking me around the flooding. My question, look, I support the concept of a paid permit because that means that you have a chance to set out the rules to the people who are going to drive on the beach, and it's self-funding. But my question is around the practical aspects of how you enforce the need for those driving on the beach to actually have a permit. Can somebody run through that with me?
I'm happy to answer that through the chair. Yeah, we've had a number of discussions with some of the community groups or the steering group as well, just around how we would manage that. One of the suggestions that has come up for a permit system is to have something visible on the vehicle, something you'd put on your front windscreen, a big yellow sticker type approach, where other users could actually see, if the vehicle has got a permit or not. So that's been one of the suggestions. I think some of these processes we're going to have to work through a little bit more and work out how we would currently do it. We actually have a current permit system in place, but that is just an online version where we have no visibility over who may be on the beach and who may be who may have applied for a permit or not. So there's a little bit of work to do in that space. Thank you.
Do you have any means? I mean, so obviously people who've paid a permit, they see somebody else without a sticker and not having paid for the permit, they'll take a photo or contact you. Do you have any way to enforce the requirement for the permit though? Is there any sanction for people driving without a permit?
Through the chair, that's part of that has been part of the discussion, and we thought if there was a visible permit that were displayed, there would be a little bit of peer pressure come on from other people who do have permits. I think where we're coming to is the permit system would be great in some respects, but having something a little bit more in regards to a physical gate would actually enable us to manage people with permits or not. So you could register online. Some of the discussions we've had is you'd register online and you would be your vehicle registration would be identified, and then as you come up to the gate, we would have a gate system there, similar you do to car parks, where it would recognise your vehicle registration and allow you in. So that's kind of the next step in the process. But when we were working with the community groups or community group, they were really supportive of having a phased approach as such, and working through some of those early implementation and options before we move to a permanent gate solution at the end of it.
Okay, that's helpful. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Your Worship. Before I go to Matua Glen, Scott, Steve and Mark, can you arrange a meeting for those that are not a meeting but just a visit to those that would be interested? I know I've been out there, His Worship the Mayor and others have been out there. So look, if that can be done, that'll be great. If I could just leave it to you to organise. Matua Glen, your pātai.
Yes, thank you. The first question I have, and it's regarding access to beaches. What would make One Rangatira different to Kariotahi, Long Bay, Orere, or let's be honest, Mission Bay? What is the difference between these beaches, besides the physical nature of the beaches? Is there a difference? And the reason I'm asking this question is I'm looking for consistency across the region of Auckland.
If I may, through you, Mr. Chair, my understanding of the difference, Mr. Wilcox, is Te One Rangatira has an extensive history of vehicles being driven on it. The majority of other beaches in Auckland, with the exception of Kariotahi, doesn't have that history and ongoing practice. Kariotahi is further burdened by being partly in the Auckland region and partly in the Waikato. So that, to my knowledge, would be the only difference.
Okay. And the second one might be more directed towards you, Chair. Does this committee have the authority, the delegated authority under the Auckland Council traffic bylaw to move a resolution to shut these beaches?
I personally don't know, but I know that Mace and that Mark and the team are going to go through the process of the paid permit system when we end up looking at whether annual plan process is the way to go. I have no doubt at all that once that is done and cleared up, that would be at least for us moving forward what's going to happen. Also, I mean, at least we're clear that this is only applies to Mirawai at this stage. If anything happens to any of the other beaches, that is something totally separate. So look, Mace will end up coming through because we still have to do that consultative process. So once that's happened, I have no doubt at all that it'll come back to us.
Yes, I'm just asking about whether this committee has the delegation to actually shut a beach or prevent vehicles from going on a beach. That's my real question here.
Yeah, I personally don't know, but
even even this the kaupapa that we're organising now. It's the Auckland Council Transport Bylaw. I think it's 8.2. And what I'm kind of getting to is that even if is this resolution the right one to be, because it says the governing body in the transport bylaw.
Yeah, so look, I know, Phelan, I'll leave it at the moment, Phelan, because Phelan has suggested in the sidebar that he can answer this. And the reason I'm leaving it for now is because that is a process that we will go through to get the fee assigned or aligned to the permit process, which we've already got. So I have no doubt at all that that will be answered, but I don't think it's at the time yet. Let's wait until we go through this process around the putia for the permit.
Thank you, Chair.
I'll
leave the rest for my comments, or am I the last one?
No, look, I'm going to open it up very soon. Apparently, Councillor Fletcher has a partai, so I will go to her and then I'll open it up for kōrero.
No, I just said that my question had been just asked by Member Wilcox. Thank you.
Ka pai. So look, I'm going to open up to anybody who has comments, and I'll leave the closing this particular item to the mover, Councillor Sayers. So are there any comments so we can get this mahi done in regards to the issue at Mirawai?
Yes, Chair, I do. Glenn here.
So far I've got you. I've got no others through here. Kia ora.
Okay, ka pai. So members of the committee, this is not something that's happened today. It's happened over a long period of time, and it's actually started way back even before 1990, when kaumātua and queer began to become concerned over the number of vehicles that were driving along Te One Rangatira. As Phelan identified, was an issue as far as safety was concerned. We wouldn't let pedestrians on the southern motorway, and yet Mirawai Beach at times may as well be the southern motorway. The environmental protection kaupapa, the dunes are degraded, they are destabilised through illegal access from that beach. If we don't do something, then nothing will get done, and we've just monitored the degradation instead of actually doing anything. This is my backyard. I grew up there. I grew up going out to that beach. I ask anyone, would you allow cars to run backwards and forwards on your backyard? The other thing I'd like to talk about is this is a significant area as far as iwi is concerned. One Rangatira is the pathway of the spirits to Te Reinga. And so for us to continue without thinking about the significance of this beach would be wrong. I would also put the rider in that a MACA claim, a Marine and Areas Coastal Act claim, is going through the High Court as we speak. That will allow public access if granted, but it will not mean that vehicles can use that beach. Finally, the reason I went for the extended date, and I thank you, Chair, for and the mover and second of this kaupapa. The reason I moved for the extension is that usually about the middle of January is when you start to get itchy about the fire danger in that forest. There's an index, there's a moisture index. Phelan knows more about it than I do, exactly how it works. But usually from about the 10th, or from about the 5th actually of January, I was continually ringing fire to see what the moisture the moisture index was in that forest. So by having it extended to the 17th, mean we know one way or the other whether we're going to continue the closure or whether we will reopen it. So that was the reason for that. And finally, I just have to say that I did attend all 4 meetings. I have been a member of the JAM. Me and Scott go way back on this, way back. And so the iwi corridor has never changed. It has always been for closure or for limited access. So in that, I just commend these recommendations to you, committee members. Thank you.
Ngā mihi ki a koe, te rangatira, so thank you so much for that. If there's no further comments, I'm going to then give Councillor Sayers the opportunity to close the debate, and I'll put the recommendations.
Sorry, Chair Chris Darby here. You're going to the closing on all the motions, are you? Not just.
That's why I asked for comments. Yes, Councillor Darby, because.
Comment.
All yours.
Thank you, Chair. Look, I do appreciate the enormous work that our team has done on this. This is it's quite a challenge when you suggest quite a big move like the complete closure of the beach. But Chair, I'm going to not support the way forward because I actually do think there needs to be a closure of the beach. Now, in not supporting it, I'm not invalidating all the good work that's been done. I just think that we need to take a bigger step. And probably, Chair, you know, I do frequent the beach like many others, and it's not just my anecdotal evidence, but it's the feedback from the equestrian community, which I have been connected to, and the riders on that beach just say repeatedly that there is just a fatality, either of a rider or a horse or both, just waiting to happen. The proximity of fast-moving vehicles and horses on that beach just do not mix, and neither do the movement of vehicles and people on that beach. Now, I know there's a real competition for of users on that beach, but I actually think the lowest in the hierarchy should be those in a motor vehicle. I've seen those conflicts myself, and I guess my position is also coloured by a personal experience quite a few decades back when I was a lot younger, when I came off second best in contact with a motor vehicle on Mirawai Beach, and I was bloodied and bruised, but I survived. And so that memory of mine, and it was it's a very painful memory. It does colour my position, Chair, that we should move in time to the complete closure of motor vehicle access to this beach. Again, it's contrary to the direction the committee's travelling in, but I do appreciate the work to date done by the teams. Thanks, Chair.
Ka pai, Councillor Darby, and yeah, look, just thank you for that. So, is there any other comments in regards to the item before I ask Councillor Sayers to close the debate? Okay, since there's none, I'll ask Councillor Darby to close the debate. Kilda.
I think Councillor Sayers, you mean.
You mean me, don't you, Alf?
Sayers, isn't it, not Darby?
Councillor Sayers, Councillor Sayers, did you want to close the debate? That's up to you. I can.
Yes, I'm happy to, Alf. You just
Yeah,
mentioned Councillor Darby, I think accidentally, just a slip there. So thank you, Mr. Chair. We absolutely must continue this conversation. We're making good progress, and that's really occurred. I mean, the community's been, for want of a word, slowly turning around to want to support the direction that Auckland Council wants to take. But that's only really occurred more recently. You know, as people have mentioned, this has been going on for years, because it was actually Brenda Steele, the ex-chair of the Rodney Local Board, mentioned at one of the public meetings, why don't we set up a community steering committee with influential, influences from across community groups, and that's worked marvellously well. And so I'm very pleased to see that continuing in the recommendations. It's still a process of getting our ducks in a row. As we've heard, we're on a journey here, but something must change. We have to protect the people, the users of the beach and the environment, and the wildlife. And I just reflect and perhaps remind some councillors, you know, not far down the road, a few years ago, we tried to close a road there, ended up the community revolting. It went to the Environment Court. It cost ratepayers $250,000 and we lost. So it's key that we nurture the community along with us, particularly through that steering group. And I'd just like to reflect on the good question from Councillor Dalton to do with D3. The wording there's specifically saying potential of ring fencing. So it doesn't mean we're not trying to paint officers into a situation there, but we do want to give them the opportunity to explore the possibility of this permitting system somehow funding what we want to achieve. And Phelan added some other things in there as well around, you know, potential in planting and other restoration work to the environment. The recommendations also talk about enforcement, and our officers can do what they can, but the key to this is actually the police. The police are the ones that really are critical to ensuring that in the future any vehicle movements along the beach are within where they're supposed to be. It's only a narrow strip along the beach they should be going. People shouldn't be going to those dunes. That's why the signage and educational aspects of this recommendation are so key going forward, and that's going to cost money to do as well. So I know that Scott and his team will be working closely with the police and other agencies to ensure that happens, but just reinforcing, you know, the police have said they can't resource anymore, but we do need their presence there on those times that the officers are aware of that are high use by vehicles. I do have a concern, Mr. Chair, just around the last minute change that we've made to A. You know, I've been very open-minded coming into this. I even moved the recommendation of the seasonal closure of the new year. But now, having listened to the debate and the officers' answers to all the council's questions, I actually now believe that A would undermine the level of trust that's slowly being built up with that community. It hasn't been socialised. We're going to pass this today, and it's going to become a big surprise to people that are you know, emotionally engaged in trying to help us through this. So, you know, the key risk was bringing that community along with us, and I don't believe A will now do that. So, but I agree, we still need to do something. We need to keep moving forward with this. The permit, as I mentioned, is the key. So when that permit system comes in place, and I was pleased with the Mayor's question, trying to understand how that would work. You know, a big sticker would be a start. You know, there is potential for the permit systems, online permit systems, to be linked to number plate recognition and gating systems in the future if that was deemed appropriate as well. But Mr. Chair, the debate has changed my mind in supporting A. I don't want to really put my name to that. I'm happy to continue to support B, C and D, but I need the community to know my position on A. So when you take it to the vote, I would like it by division just on A. Thank you.
Okay, the only option I can offer you, Councillor Sayers, is that I'll move it and Councillor Cooper second it if you wish. That way then you can then vote against A, and then I'll just get it moved and seconded.
If that's procedurally correct, Mr. Chair, I'll take advice on that.
Yeah, look, I'm only giving you the option. Sandra, can that happen? Or because Councillor Sayers has now closed the debate, that his name cannot be taken off it? Maya?
My understanding is that can happen. You can do that.
Okay, look, I will move it. Councillor Cooper, there's no need for any closing arguments and debate. So then that way, at least, Councillor Sayers, you have the room to go against recommendation A. So are you happy with that?
Yeah, I'm happy with that, Mr. Chair, but I'd still like A by division, please.
Yeah, no problems at all. So Maya, who's going to do the division on A? What I will do, however, look, we'll do the division on A and then move into confirming the others. Thank you.
Okay, I will call the division. So the division is on the, I'm sorry, Sandra, can I just get you to move the division box over? Thank you. The division is on the approve the implementation of the seasonal restriction measures to control motorised vehicles accessing to One Rangatira, Mirawai Beach to address beach users' safety and enjoyment, environmental protection and driving behaviour for the New Zealand New Year period 2021-2022, 31st of December 2021 to 17th of January 2022. Mayor Goff.
In favour.
Chair Filipina.
Aye.
Oh, sorry, Deputy Mayor Cashmore.
Aye.
Councillor Casey.
Yes.
Councillor Collins.
For.
Councillor Coombe.
Aye.
Councillor Cooper.
For.
Councillor Dalton.
For.
Councillor Darby.
Against.
That was against. Thank you. Councillor Fletcher.
For.
Sorry. Thank you. For. Councillor Henderson.
For.
Councillor Hills.
In favour, thank you.
Unfortunately, this info council hasn't been updated, so we will have to take Councillor Wilcox under, sorry, IMSB member Wilcox under Honig.
Oh, yes.
For. Thank you. Member Kaki. Nope. Councillor Mulholland.
For.
Councillor Newman. Councillor Sayers.
Against.
Councillor Simpson.
Sorry, for.
Councillor Stewart. Sorry, can you repeat that?
No.
Against. Thank you. Councillor Walker.
Yes.
Councillor Watson.
No.
Councillor Young.
Yes.
Thank you.
I noticed Councillor Fletcher's put a comment in the sidebar about how she's voting.
Yes, we've corrected it, have we, Councillor?
My Councillor Bartley is present.
Councillor Bartley?
For.
That's carried 17 votes to 4.
Okay then. Look, we'll move on to the other sections or the other recommendations. So it's been moved and seconded. I'll put all those together. All those in favour?
Aye.
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 Against? Carried.